La impactante muerte de una estrella. Todo el mundo quiere saber qué ocurrió y cada minuto cuenta. Ahora, por primera vez, vamos detrás de la escena del crimen. Con simulaciones digitales forenses y dramatizaciones seguimos la investigación mientras la policía corre contra el reloj para resolver el caso. En este episodio, Tupac Shakur, rapero superestrella de 25 años, es brutalmente asesinado en el centro de Las Vegas.
The arm came out of the back door and it started firing into Tupac.
Veremos a los médicos luchando por salvar la vida de Tupac.
He's had a right lung removed and he remains in critical condition.
Mientras la policía pierde una valiosa oportunidad de hallar al asesino.
The police made so many mistakes during the investigation, it's difficult to catalog them all.
Nos adentramos en uno de los homicidios más resonantes de la historia.
There's a lot of truth to be told and questions to be answered regarding that night.
A continuación, en Famosas Escenas de Crimen, Tupac Shakur. Es el 7 de septiembre de 1996. Tupac Shakur llega a Las Vegas con Suge Knight de Death Row Records a ver la pelea entre Mike Tyson y Bruce Seldon en el hotel MGM Grand.
We were sitting ringside watching the fight, and Mike Tyson and Seldon steps into the ring, the bell ding ding, and 50 seconds later the fight was over. Mike knocked him out in the first round.
Tyson and Pac were, good friends. So we was in a pretty celebratory mood.
So we proceed to leave at this time.
We're going down Las Vegas Boulevard trying to get to our club. At the time it was called Club 662. We were directly behind Suge and Pac, and in our car was Frank, the bodyguard, and two guys.
They were going to a party. They sort of were cruising to get there. They had some time.
New York, LA, just the West Coast. I want the East Coast too.
And these gals are in one car, and they turn and talk to them.
Had said, "Hey, Tupac, where you going? Where you going?" And he's like, "We're going to the club over to 662. Go over there."
La luz roja detiene la caravana en el cruce de Flamingo y Cobalt. Dos autos paran delante del vehículo de Suge y Tupac. El guardaespaldas de Tupac va detrás. Suge y Tupac miran a las mujeres de la izquierda y no ven el Cadillac último modelo de la derecha.
So now it's completely blocked in, and there's absolutely nowhere for him to go. The arm came out of the back door, and it started firing into Tupac. Bang, 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 bang. And once it stopped, all you saw was all of this smoke going up in the air.
It definitely seemed like everything slowed down, and I just remember thinking, man, they shooting forever.
And the car just took off.
I grabbed Pac, I pulled him down. I got shot in the head with I still got 45 bullets that inched to my skull.
Shots fired. I repeat, shots fired. Possible victims. This unit in pursuit of vehicle. Need assistance. Leaving the vicinity of Cobo and Flamingo, proceeding westbound.
Two bicycle cops, they hear this boom, 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 lots of shots fired. So they take their bikes and call for backup.
I had actually jumped out of the car and ran up to the back of the BMW because I thought that they were dead. There was absolutely no way in the world that these guys were alive. They had to have been dead. Too many bullets had gone through their car. Well, to my surprise, the car made a U-turn. So I ran back, jump in the car, and make a U-turn as well.
Both bicycle cops take off and follow Suge. Meantime, Cadillac gets away without anybody knowing.
Suge was jumping mediums and blowing his tires and frantically trying to get away. How that car was even driving is amazing. Okay, amazing. His car actually came to a stop at Las Vegas Boulevard in Harmon.
And the center of the Las Vegas Strip became the main scene.
The cops arrived on the scene. They didn't know what had happened. They saw this shot up BMW, screaming glass, blood.
They pulled everybody, including Suge, out of the car, and Suge didn't want to get out because he wanted to stay with Tupac because he was injured. At that point, Tupac was still conscious.
The police didn't know whether he'd been shot or whether he was involved in the shooting.
I get out the car, I tell the police, I'm saying, hey, slow up. They got the guns drawn out on us. I'm saying, look, I'm shot, he shot, slow up. They said, you want to get shot again?
Hey, be quiet!
There's a lot of police all over the strip. They came out in full force.
Oh, we need an ambulance. Get out right now. Don't move.
Suge was on the ground, and I said, that's the CEO of our record label. He's a victim here. So the police let Suge up off the ground, and Tupac was still sitting in the BMW. And for whatever reason, the door wouldn't open from the outside.
They couldn't get Pac out the car because they did not open the door and take the seatbelt off. So I did.
So he opened the door, and we pulled Tupac out of the car, and we laid him on the ground. The ambulance approached, and he's laying there, and he takes a breath, and he crosses his hands just like this over his body, and he goes, and that was the last breath I ever saw him take on his own.
Tupac está semi-inconsciente mientras lo suben a la ambulancia y lo trasladan al centro médico universitario. Con la evacuación de los heridos y el perímetro cerrado en torno al auto de Suge, la policía inicia su investigación.
Harmon and Las Vegas Boulevard became the focal point for the police, for ambulances and everything.
We were cuffed and interrogated right there on the Vegas Strip. We got tattoos and whatnot, so it was like, what gang you in? And they was like, who did you see? Can you give us a description?
Los testigos del atentado declaran que Tupac y su comitiva golpearon a un hombre esa noche, como represalia por una riña entre ese hombre y un amigo de Tupac un mes atrás.
After the fight in the MGM, one of Suge's homeboys came over, and he whispered into Tupac's right ear. Well, when he whispered into his ear, Tupac shot off. They ran up to this guy, and he started throwing blows at him. The rest of the entourage approached him as well, and they started, kicking him and, fighting him while he was down on the ground.
Sospechando que ese fue el motivo, la policía habla con la seguridad del hotel MGM, que no aporta detalles.
Security did not take an incident report because the person they were kicking and stomping on, he said no, he wasn't going to press charges, and they didn't even know who the person was other than they had his first name, Orlando.
Cuando regresemos, la policía tiene su primer sospechoso, pero no será fácil encontrarlo. A continuación, en famosas escenas de crimen, Tupac Shakur. Pasaron 20 minutos del atentado. Tupac y Suge Knight están en el centro médico donde los médicos intentan estabilizar a Tupac. Su mayor problema es que una bala atravesó el pulmón derecho, inundando el tórax de sangre. Para vaciarlo, insertan un catéter en la piel y el músculo entre las costillas hasta la cavidad torácica.
The vast majority of thoracic trauma that occurs, that's going to take care of your problem. The blood vessels will contract, the bleeding a lot of times will stop on its own, and that's all you have to do.
They believed they had him stabilized, but apparently the level of internal bleeding was more significant than they realized.
Mientras tanto, la policía busca el auto del francotirador.
We are looking for a suspect vehicle which was described as a white Cadillac, newer model Cadillac. That's all we have on it right now. We have our crime scene analysts who's gathering evidence.
The police made so many mistakes during the investigation, it's difficult to catalog them all.
Number one error was why one of those bike patrol officers didn't stay at the scene of the shooting on Flamingo. You've got witnesses who might have taken off. You've got all these people, and then they're scrambling after the fact.
Dozens and dozens and dozens of people drove through the crime scene by the time they closed it off. It was contaminated in every way, probably totally useless.
20 minutos antes de cerrar la escena del crimen, los autos que pasaban pisaron los cartuchos caídos en el asfalto. Algunos quedaron aplastados, otros rodaron a las alcantarillas o desaparecieron.
They didn't get any fingerprints off the casings. They weren't able to get forensics on this, and the evidence in this case was just very little.
Las pruebas balísticas muestran que el agresor del Cadillac blanco disparó una bala a la puerta trasera, 5 balas a la puerta delantera del acompañante, varias a la ventanilla del acompañante y una al parabrisas.
I was dealing with the sergeant, and I was told it was a .40 caliber Glock.
We're going to continue this investigation. Hopefully, we'll come up with something that makes some sense of this unfortunate incident.
The cops were there all night long. There was one witness, Yafafula, said that he could identify the shooter.
Yafafula was an old friend of Tupac's, and he was riding in a car directly behind the one Tupac and Suge were in. So he was closer than anyone other than Suge.
Yafafula, who was in the front seat with me, was staring out of the window. So he saw the Cadillac before it even approached the car.
And he told the police right off, I saw who did it. And it's stunning to think that, okay, he said that, and they didn't say, yeah, who is it? But they didn't. They said, okay, we want you to come in and make a statement. And, you know, at some point in the future, they didn't even set a time.
Demorada por la policía, la comitiva de Tupac quiere conocer el estado de su amigo.
They had us sitting out on the Vegas Strip for about 2 hours. And they just let us go. Everybody went to the hospital. It was definitely worse than any of us could imagine. They had breathing machines on him. He was bandaged and everything.
Para detener la hemorragia interna, los médicos extirpan el pulmón dañado, hacen una incisión en el tórax, separan la caja torácica y los cirujanos acceden al área. Comprimen el pulmón con ligaduras en los vasos sanguíneos, sujetan, cortan y extraen el pulmón. Pero la hemorragia interna persiste y los médicos no encuentran su origen. Cuando regresemos, Tupac se debilita y los médicos tratan de salvarlo desesperadamente. A continuación, en famosas escenas de crimen, Tupac Shakur.
Rap artist Tupac Shakur is reported in critical condition this morning in a Las Vegas hospital. He was shot while riding along the Strip in Las Vegas.
Son las 9 a.m. en Las Vegas. El país despierta con la noticia del atentado a Tupac Shakur. La policía estuvo toda la noche recabando pruebas en la escena del crimen. Tupac pasa la noche en el hospital y es operado varias veces.
What are Tupac's wounds as far as you know? His wounds are he's suffering from multiple gunshot wounds to the chest and also has a wound to his thigh. He's undergone 2 series of surgeries. He's had a right lung removed. He's back in his room and again he remains in critical condition.
Those bullets did a significant amount of damage to his body internally.
La primera bala golpeó el meñique y atravesó la mano derecha. La segunda impactó en el fémur, rebotó en el abdomen y se alojó en la pelvis. La última bala entró en el pecho, debajo del brazo, y se alojó en el pulmón.
The Las Vegas police had a very difficult time getting Suge Knight to agree to an interview. It took days. I mean, they should have held him that evening, but he had promised to come back. He stalled. Finally came in 3 days later with 3 attorneys. If anybody would have seen the shooter, I mean, Suge would have had the best view. Suge somehow didn't see the shooter. He just dummied up totally. He didn't know anything about anything, and he wasn't giving them anything.
If you knew who killed Tupac, would you tell the police?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because it's not my job. I don't get paid to solve homicides. I don't get paid to tell people.
If the authorities wanted to question me and talk to me, I would never talk to the police. If it's anybody who wouldn't say anything, who know how to keep their mouth shut and don't believe in the snitches and the rats, it would be Suge Knight.
We would like anybody who might have seen something other than the people who were there to come forward and enlighten us. They're telling us they didn't see anything, they don't know anything.
Pasaron ya 4 días del atentado. Sin otras pistas, la policía vuelve al Hotel MGM para tratar de identificar al hombre golpeado, conocido como Orlando. Sospechando que la pelea se relaciona con la pandilla de Suge, originaria de Compton, California, la policía de Las Vegas llama a las autoridades de Compton.
The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department reached out to Compton Police and said, hey, we could use help. We want you to ID this guy.
My partner Tim Brennan was asked by Las Vegas PD to go there and help identify the subjects involved in the beatdown. Then they showed him the tape, and he immediately recognized Orlando Anderson as the guy that was beat down during the incident. This guy was from Compton, a Southside Crip. At the time, we were investigating him on another murder where he shot the guy in the head.
Word began to reach the police that Orlando Anderson and his little crew of guys had been involved in the shooting.
Orlando Anderson, he's a ruthless killer, and that's the type of guy that they were dealing with out there in Vegas, but I don't think they had any idea of that at the time.
It was the 6th day. Had lost a lot of blood. They couldn't stop the bleeding internally from that chest injury. They had done 2 surgeries to go in and try to stop the bleeding, and then it would start up again. And that second surgery, they couldn't stop it completely.
I was sitting outside the room. This is his mother, Afeni. She sat there, and it was just like an uncomfortable silence, and then she put her hand on my knee. She put her hand on my knee, and she patted it and said, "It's gonna be okay, Frank. It's gonna be okay." And that's all she said to me. And I started crying. That was it. And then he died, September the 13th.
At 4:03 this afternoon, Tupac Shakur was pronounced dead.
I was definitely crushed, and my whole world was lost.
It was a major loss. You know, it wasn't just a friend, it was my little brother.
Pasaron varias semanas desde que Tupac Shakur sucumbió a sus heridas. La policía de Las Vegas encuentra a su principal sospechoso, Orlando Anderson, con la ayuda de la policía de Compton.
So my partner Tim Brennan came back, and we decided in a 2-week period to put together this massive gang search warrant. And we did this so we can help Las Vegas with their investigation.
So Las Vegas police went down to Compton. One of the detectives on the case actually talked to Orlando Anderson.
Orlando Anderson, he wouldn't say anything about Tupac's murder. I don't know anything about that.
No, I was not involved. I mean, I'm like a victim. You know what I'm saying? I feel, you know what I'm saying, sorry for him.
Vegas let Orlando go and said there wasn't enough evidence to arrest him. Basically, Compton police felt a little bit frustrated.
They were convinced that there was enough to charge and convict Orlando Anderson of the murder, but they could never get the Las Vegas police to file.
Otras pistas tampoco prosperan. Al hablar con la policía en la escena, el testigo principal, Yafu Fula, promete declarar ante los detectives. Pero la policía no vuelve a saber de él. 2 meses después, Fula es encontrado muerto con un disparo en la nuca.
Yafu Fula's murder is the most troubling because it happened so quickly, and he was the best witness.
Without having any witnesses or anyone being able to identify the suspect, it's essentially impossible to solve this thing.
La policía de Las Vegas lleva 2 años tratando de resolver el caso Tupac y surge un nuevo contratiempo. El único sospechoso, Orlando Anderson, es asesinado desde un auto en Los Ángeles, dejando a la policía sin pistas. En cuanto a otras teorías, se rumoreó que el rapero rival de Tupac, Biggie Smalls, ordenó el asesinato, o que Suge Knight tuvo que ver.
There are a lot of conspiracy theories, one of which is that Suge Knight ordered the hit because reportedly Tupac was going to leave Death Row Records.
I don't know if I buy into that. I think it would be pretty brazen and risky to be in the same vehicle with the target of the hit.
If somebody said that I had something to do with it, I didn't take it as a point where it bothered me. I took it as a point where they got to be the most stupidest mother in the whole wide world.
Los investigadores de Las Vegas descartaron la teoría de que Suge ordenara matar a Tupac, pero hay quienes dudan de que la policía quiera resolver el caso.
I was told by LAP detectives that when they went over to Las Vegas to talk to them, that the Las Vegas cops told them privately, look, we've been told that they don't want us to solve this crime.
I was told by our at Metro that it would be bad publicity having all these hip-hop people coming in for a trial. I think it goes beyond it's bad for tourism. I don't know. Somebody didn't want to solve it and it didn't get solved.
Pasó más de una década y la muerte de Tupac sigue sin resolverse. Sin huellas digitales, testigos oculares ni el arma homicida, no hay esperanzas de que la policía lo resuelva. Cuando se le pregunta sobre el caso, la policía de Las Vegas responde: la investigación sigue abierta.
He had something to say. He had a message to deliver, and he was going to get that message to the world one way or another, you know, through life or death.
There's a lot of details, a lot of truth to be told, and questions to be answered. Recalling that night, I think at the end of the day, everybody needs some type of positive closure.